Well, it's SepTandy on YouTube, so all throughout the month of September, a bunch of us are looking at Tandy electronic items. And while other people are looking at the Tandy series of computers, I thought I'd take a look at this. This is the Pong type system from the late 70s, so let's see what it's all about. Tandy Electronic TV Scoreboard. 4 remote control TV games plus 2 shooting games. Fun for the entire family. Take aim on great video action with Tandy's Electronic TV Scoreboard. It features 4 popular sports games: football, squash, tennis, and single player practice. Doesn't everyone love a game of single player practice? I think you're maybe stretching that a little bit, Tandy, saying that there are 4 sports games. And 2 exciting shooting games, Target and Skeet. I have no idea what that is. That's a picture of it there. Includes photo electronic pistol that operates under normal room lighting conditions. That's this thing. Master remote control unit with game controls and separate remote unit. That's these things. Automatic on-screen digital display scoring, electronic sound effects, auto or manual serving, plus game restart button. Certainly packing in the features there. You can select fast or slow ball speed, large or small paddle size, and 20° or 40° bounce angle. Connects easily to any TV set and operates on 6 AA batteries, not included, or optional extra AC adapter. 6 AA's, that's just the same as the Game Gear. I'm sure the batteries in this will last a bit longer though. So let's see what is in our box. And look at that, there's a little bit of history. Victoria's and Jacqueline's good luck. Hopefully that is not a sign of things to come. And what do you know, we have the optional extra Tandy DC power brick. Supposed to be outputting 9 volts. We will of course test this before trying it on the system. I would be surprised if, given this age, it is still outputting 9 volts. I think it would be safer to try our system on batteries. There's our gun. Looks in really good condition. But unfortunately, unless we can find a CRT to tune this into, there's going to be no way to use this. These things will not work on an LCD TV or monitor. It needs those rays from the cathode tube. We have the machine itself, but just before we look at that, there is also the owner's manual. Pretty standard affair. It only actually is English for the first few pages, and then, like most European products, it just repeats itself in other languages. I don't think I have ever read a manual for anything in my life, so we're not going to start now. So the system itself. Left player gets this smaller remote control unit, which just has the rotary dial on it. The right player gets the full, almost telephone looking thing with his right dial. We have the game select up here. In fact, let me unwind this cable a bit so you can see it better. There, that's better. So we have the game select up here, power switch, reset, serve, ball speed, fast or slow, bat size, large or small, slice, minimum or maximum. I'm assuming that is the deflection angle, either 20 or 40 degrees. And then the serve, manual or auto. Then that is the right player's controls. Our DC 9 volts would go in there. or batteries, presumably in here. Looks like it has a speaker built into it, so the sounds must come out of this thing, not out of the TV. Hopefully there's no battery damage in here. And no, it looks almost like new. No corrosion whatsoever. Probably never been used with batteries actually, considering it has the power brick. So what are we going to do with this thing? I suppose in the first instance, we're going to test that power brick. Test this thing to see if it powers up and makes some noises. We'll open it up, take a look at the internals. And because an RF video connection isn't great, let's see if we can do a composite video mod on this thing. Let's test our Tandy AC adapter. It's supposed to be outputting DC 9 volts. I'm going to guess that given its age, this thing is just wrecked and it's going to be outputting 15 volts. I'm going to go for 15 volts. Let's test it. Well, no explosions. That's good. Multimeter. What is it doing? 13.18. So not as bad as I thought, but it's certainly not outputting 9 volts. In fact, it jumped up to 13.2 there at one point. I think we'll just put this thing to the side and test our TV scoreboard with batteries. So let's get 6 of Poundland's finest in here. And let's see if there's any noises. Oh yes. We're getting beeps and bloops. Hopefully that means this thing works. Right, let's take it apart and see what's going on the inside. Well, it seems as if there are just 2 screws holding this together. One in the battery compartment and one up here. And let's see if that will let it come apart. It doesn't want to. It doesn't feel like there's any screws underneath those. And I don't think these dials are going to be holding the thing in, because I would expect all the electronics to be screwed to this front bit. Maybe just clips or something. Ah, there we are. Yeah, it was just a couple of wee clips. And there we have it. It's all fairly simple inside, isn't it? And in some ways, you could almost call this the first system on a chip. Could we call it that? Because the whole thing is built around this one IC. This is an AY-3-8500, which in itself was the first integrated circuit from General Instruments, released in 1976. And this provides the 4 Pong games and the 2 light gun games. Everything is done on the one chip, just needs a little bit of supporting hardware. One thing that I find very interesting about this though, is that it doesn't have a single video output. Rather, this has 4 independent video outputs for left and right paddle, the ball and the play field. Those would then be combined through a series of resistors into our RF modulator and out to the TV. I dare say it's those resistors there where our video signals are combined. And supposedly the whole point behind that was that you could use resistors of different values to alter the brightness of the 4 different video signals to give the appearance of a brighter or duller play field or ball or player's paddles, whatever it may be. So to get a composite video signal, what we need to do is pick up those 4 independent video signals, combine them with the sync, and that's meant to be it. Now that video signal will be slightly out of spec for composite, as I understand anyway, but supposedly it should still work on the majority of TVs. This 6-7.5 written on the chip here, I dare say what that is indicating the voltage level of this chip. This doesn't run at a typical 5 volt logic, rather its spec is 6 to 7 volt, and apparently it can handle up to 12 volts. Just from where the power comes in here, I don't see any sort of regulation on it, unless it's a part of this. But it's just one reason why I don't want to risk using this power brick. As we've seen, that's putting out 13 volts, which is above the maximum spec of this chip. So I don't want to run the risk that our power brick would fry this. I think it is just safer to continue on the batteries. To make life a bit easier here, I've removed the old RF cable. Yes, we could have reused that, cut the end off, put a composite end on it and rerouted the wires internally, but I thought it easier just to remove it. We can coil that cable up, keep it in the box so it could be put back in here in the future if needed, and then we'll just use another old composite cable, cut one end off it and make it off in here instead. In fact, I think what I'll do is use an old cable I have off the Nintendo Wii, and only because it has a grey sheath on it to match the original. So if we just pull up the pinout of this chip, the 4 video outputs come out of pin 6, which is ball out, then pins 9 and 10, which are the left and right players, paddle output, and then pin 24, which is the score and field output. The sync is on pin 16. And as I said, what we need to do is combine these. Oh, by the way, I said earlier this chip was 1976. That might have been when it was initially released, but our actual one here is from the 22nd week of 1979. Regardless of that though, it is still older than me. So what we're going to do is fit a couple of little diodes to each of those video pins, and we'll combine that with the sync signal. So I'm going to hook all that up and then connect it up to our composite video cable via a little 1 UF capacitor just for a bit of decoupling. And just because I'm feeling super lazy, we're just going to build this on top of the chip. Well, there's the laziness and the fact that I don't really want to remove this board unless I absolutely have to. See this here? This looks as if it is a paper ribbon, most likely going to the buttons and controls on the front. I dare say, given the age of this thing, that would be quite fragile, and I'd rather not pull this board out unless I absolutely had to. It'll be fine just building this wee circuit on top of this. It's only a handful of components. So I'll do that and then we'll be back to test it. Okay, that's it done. Let's see if this is going to work. I've got the batteries in. We're hooked up to the capture card. Here we go. So yes, we're getting a signal. Albeit it looks kind of dull, doesn't it? Where's my paddle? There it is. Hit reset. We can start the game. And yes, we can. It's all working fine, but My only complaint would be that's a bit grey, isn't it? I would have expected it to be white, or certainly brighter than that anyway. So that's just the practice mode we're looking at there. What's that? That's squash, I think. Then we've got football. So you get a defender and a striker. And presumably that is tennis. And then it's just the light gun games. Skeet and target. Now, I know I did say there are just 4 games on this. 4 Pong games is the 2 light gun games. But there sort of is a hidden 5th game. And to access that, what you need to do is turn the dial to about halfway between football and squash. And then you can see the right player has his defender, his striker, and also now a midfielder. I dare say what is happening here though is that new midfielder, as I'm calling him, that is just the squash bat. Because if I flick this on round to squash, you can see that right player bat stays in exactly the same position. So I'm not sure you could call that another full game. Rather, it's maybe more of a bug in the thing. I am a little disappointed though, just by how dull the picture is. I wonder, is it something to do with the diodes? Because you are going to lose a bit across those. If I just take a little bit of wire, just part of one of the legs that I cut off. And that's the ball, for example. If I try and bypass that diode without shorting anything, well, it sort of screws up the rest of the picture, but you can see now that the ball itself is a lot brighter. Wonder if I replace those diodes with like 100 ohm resistors instead. Wonder would that still offer enough protection to the video output pin, but give us a brighter signal. I just try and short that in there. Don't know if that's going to work like, but let's just try it. Yeah, that's giving us a nice bright ball again. I think I should maybe try that. I'm going to replace all of those diodes with these 100 ohm resistors. Well, I've been playing with this for longer than I would care to admit, but what we have here now, I think, is giving us the best picture, or well, the best picture that I can get out of this anyway. So you can see that the picture is considerably brighter than what we had before. There is a little bit of interference in it, almost looks like jail bars, but it's as good as I can get it. That interference might actually just be part and parcel of this chip. So I went with 75 ohm resistors on each of the pins here, and I've increased that capacitor to 100 UF. I did try various different values of resistors and capacitors, but I think this combination that we have here is just the best that we can get out of it. A couple of wee spots of hot glue in there just to help hold everything together, and our cable is held in place with the original strain relief. I just put a little bit of PVC tape around the cable here just to thicken it a bit. This cable is slightly thinner than the original one, but with the PVC tape in there, the original cable restraint can clamp it nicely. So let's just get it all back together. And then I thought what we'd do is test it out with one of our CRTs. See how it looks on that. And to see if the light gun will work. So I've pulled out the trusty 1084. Let's see if this thing is going to work on that. Are we going to get our composite video signal displaying? Monitor on. And Tandy on. In fact, let me turn off the overhead lights. Then hopefully we can see the screen a bit better. And yes, we are getting the signal there, but it is very dull. That's the contrast turned right up now on the monitor. Turn the brightness up a wee bit as well. That's about as far as you can push it before the brightness starts bleeding through. So I think the problem here is that our video signal is just too weak. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, that the composite video signal that you get out of this is sort of out of spec. I did see an article that recommends trying to build a wee amplifier to put onto that composite out. Obviously to try and bring it into spec. That's maybe something I should try to do at some point in the future, but for now I'm just happy enough that we are getting a picture. Is this going to work though? Let's find out. No. Well, sort of worked if the gun is touching the monitor. But from any sort of distance, no, it won't work. And I bet you it's because of a lack of brightness. Let's turn the brightness up on the monitor here. Yep. Yep, I think that's what's wrong. Our video signal is just too weak. The picture is not bright enough, and a little sensor in this can't see the dot moving about the screen. But for what it is, I'm pretty happy with how we've got it to work so far. It's certainly fine just for playing Pong. Fast ball speed? Oh my goodness, that is ridiculously fast. Well, that's my entry for SepTandy. Hopefully you enjoyed this wee video. We managed to get our TV scoreboard up and running via Composite. Well, sort of Composite. I am going to have to build some sort of video amplification circuit into this so that we can increase that brightness and then we can use that light gun properly. But for now, I'm happy enough that it's just working. Certainly working well enough that we can play Pong. Once you get to 15 points, the game doesn't let you score any further. In fact, the ball just goes straight through the paddle. But look, I'm happy enough with how this has turned out. I have to say though, that Tandy, it's not something I've ever really come across here in Northern Ireland before. Now this system does hail from before my time. It's certainly a few years older than me. But I don't remember ever seeing any Tandy Electronics shops or even Tandy branded appliances in other shops. But if any of my viewers who live locally do have memories of Tandy here in Northern Ireland, please let me know. Obviously it was a really big brand in America and Australia. It did have a presence in mainland UK. I just don't think it ever really made its way over here. In fact, before YouTube and before my whole fascination in this retro computer stuff really took off, I have to admit, I'd never heard of Tandy. I managed to fix the box a bit. You'll notice it's not just as bent out of shape as it was before. I just glued some fresh cardboard inside it there to stiffen it up a bit now, and tried to glue this front back together as best I could, albeit, well, it is a bit beat up, but it's just better than it was. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed what you've seen. If you did, I would appreciate a big thumbs up, as it does really help the channel. Why not hit subscribe if you haven't done so already? Still plenty more yet to come on CRG, and I'll see you next time.